I did hear your introduction. I thank you for the introduction. I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint, and I'm going to talk to you today about the radical concept of open hiring. It is a model that is taking form, and we are getting many adopters of this model. Open hiring was first started in the early 1980s when our founder, Bernie Glassman, had a small family-owned bakery in New York, in an area called Yonkers, in proximity to the Bronx, New York, which was a pretty impoverished neighborhood. At that time, individuals would ask for money on the streets, and Bernie's idea was that he would not give people a handout. However, he would allow individuals to come into his family-owned bakery and work and earn a day's pay, which would provide to these individuals the dignity of work. These are individuals with barriers to employment. Barriers vary across different sectors. Some people were formerly incarcerated, while others were not proficient in speaking the English language. Some simply had no skills to go into the workforce. Fast forward several years later, in the later 80s, Bernie ran into and met the founders of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They loved the idea that Bernie was providing opportunities for individuals with barriers to employment. They entered into a partnership, a contract with Bernie's Greyston bakery, and as a result, the bakery began to create what we call inclusions for the ice cream. If you buy ice cream flavors such as the chocolate fudge Ben & Jerry's ice cream, the fudge inside is baked here at our bakery by the Greyston bakers. As a result, we had a very big need to hire many people. About maybe 70 to 80 bakers were needed to prepare all of these orders because Ben & Jerry's became such a large vendor for us. Anyway, as a result, we ended up creating something that we call the open hire wait list. The need was only for individuals to put their name on a list, and once their name was called, they would get a job, a full-time job, making a salary over the minimum wage in our area. Today, 40 years later, we have perfected that model of open hiring, providing opportunities to individuals with barriers to employment. I would like to share with you right now my presentation. And it is to talk about open and inclusive hiring. Open hiring, I don't know if you can see my presentation. However, open hiring is a model that is based on the trust in the human potential of people. We have no requirement for resumes, no requirement for interviews, no background checks. We just really focus on human potential rather than a person's past actions or past behaviors. We're not so much interested in where they've been, but we do look forward and believe that they can go in a positive direction. Open hiring actually removes all unnecessary background checks and things like that, providing these opportunities to individuals with barriers to employment. So we say, what are the barriers? As I said earlier, some people are not proficient in speaking the language. Other people have been incarcerated. Others have childcare needs where they can't work the daytime shift. Others really have shelter insecurities, food insecurities, all of those things that make it difficult for marginalized populations to find work. We found that many people that have been excluded from the workforce basically because of their life circumstances, some because of choices they've made, while others are born into situations that make life difficult for them due to sometimes their socioeconomic status, because of race, because of gender. Open hiring removes all of those barriers and allows someone to have an opportunity to come into the workplace. So what do we say? We say that background checks are not necessary, drug tests are not necessary, Interviews are not necessary. Resumes are not necessary. Reference checks are not necessary. And credit checks are not necessary. As a result, instead, we invest our money in onboarding frontline workers, workers who have not had the opportunity. We provide training in the hard skill, meaning the occupation they come in to operate tools and equipment to make them proficient bakers. And we also provide them with work readiness skills to make them successful. What do I mean by work readiness skills? Because many of these people have not been in the workforce. They may need some instruction on proper workplace etiquette, how to hold appropriate conversations in the workplace. We also provide a caseworker, which we like to call the path maker. That individual allows them to have someone to talk to assist them with the barriers they may face. It operates what we like to call in the States as an employee assistance program. So we do have a person that is able to provide all of the assistance. As we have found now, we've been really getting a lot of companies that are looking to hire employees in the United States. Anyway, we have a need right now. Many of our businesses are saying that they can't find people that are willing to accept lower level positions, entry level positions, people because of the COVID pandemic. People have realized that they really are more interested in a life work balance. Open hiring opens up a door for individuals who have actually stopped looking for a job. Why have they stopped looking? Not that they didn't want to work, but because they have been told no so many times when they did look to obtain a job. So now we find that there are many companies coming on board adopting the model, which is really wonderful. Open hiring, our research indicates that, and we've researched and conducted surveys and collected a lot of data from many different companies, organizations, large and small. I will talk about the Body Shop is one of the major companies, one of the larger companies that did adopt the open hire model. When they piloted the model in 2019, they did so with approximately 1,200 positions in their distribution center with no background check, no interview, no resume. They simply created the list like we do here at the Greyston Bakery. We assisted them in implementing that model. As a result, 1,200 people were hired, and now they are opening up this concept, this form of hiring throughout the entire business, throughout the entire organization, and they're going to probably provide another 5,000 positions. The turnover rate is reduced as a result of it. Open hiring reduced the cost of your human resources teams. It improves your culture. It provides a more inclusive culture, race-wise, gender-wise. It really crosses all barriers. It really gives you an inclusive workforce. And we do understand that every company will not implement open hiring like Greyston Bakery does, but we do provide support for any means, any variation thereof that you may want to incorporate. We find also that adopters from this model have told us that the employees are more loyal to the employers because they are more grateful and appreciative for the opportunity. As I said, the rate of retention is approximately 60 to 70% greater when you hire people through this model. Some of the myths, there are some myths about open hiring. Many people often say, well, if we hire this way, will we get a workforce? We don't know who we're getting. But I say to that, you never know who you're getting anyway. When you require reference checks, an individual is only going to give you a reference of someone who they know will give a good reference for them. You spend lots of money with your HR team conducting background checks and trying to call for references and doing extensive research. And the research indicates that it does not save money, it does not save time, it does not reduce your turnover rates. Open hiring is the wave of the future as we seek to have a more inclusive workforce. We invite you to adopt the model. If you need support, we are available to support you in model adoption. You can contact Greyston Bakery, and we are here. Open hiring is the way of the future. Thank you. I would like to take some questions because I don't think that you were able to see my presentation. We are having very bad technical issues here
No
today.
worries, no worries. I mean, yeah, we didn't see the presentation, unfortunately, but we heard you loud and clearly. And yeah, such an interesting and in the beginning when I heard about inclusive and open hiring, I thought it's quite radical. But the more I learn about it, the more I think how radical our standard traditional hiring practices are in a bad sense. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of questions in here, a lot of interesting stuff. I'll just go and pick them out for you maybe, and then you can see how you can respond to them. So the first one
Sure.
is here. What is the biggest misconception when it comes to open hiring? Oh.
I would find that the biggest misconception is businesses usually say, well, if we do open hiring and we don't do a background check, we're going to get all criminals. People think that they're going to get people that were formerly incarcerated or that have extensive criminal backgrounds. And that is the biggest myth. The fact of the matter is, when an individual hears that your company is offering open hiring, they are coming because they want to work. You don't find career criminals coming in. Even at our bakery, the the ratio, I should say, of individuals hired through open hiring, there's only maybe 1/4 of those individuals that were formerly incarcerated. That is the biggest myth, that individuals are all going to come, they're all criminals. Not at all, because people that come are people who have decided, I want to work. I want the dignity of work. And another thing that I didn't mention because I was so rattled by my presentation not showing is that we do have in place that caseworker who is there to support all of the people that come in through open hiring and to help them navigate any issues that they may have. So that's the biggest myth, the formerly incarcerated. Open hiring is not what we call a re-entry program. It is not a program designed for returning people returning from the prison system. It is not that at all.
Cool. Yeah. Another question that we have here, I think, is kind of about capacity issues, maybe then with applications that are coming in. So this one is, do you think you evaluate too many applications without any resume? Wouldn't it be very difficult for companies kind of to handle that?
Well, we need to take away the word application. All right, we don't have a physical application, but we do have a waiting list. That's how we present it. Come and add your name to the waiting list. When they add their name to the waiting list, it is with the understanding that when your name comes up, when an open position is available, the next person on the list will be called. So one might say, well, how do you ever have openings? We have openings because we do, once a person is in the bakery, they promote within. Sometimes people promote within, and other times, of course, like with any other position, people get learn a skill, and they sometimes come over to we have a foundation here in which we do workforce development training. It's our good pleasure if they come over and decide, well, I really want to work in computers. We offer training in that area, in the IT space. If they want to have training in healthcare, we offer different training programs. So sometimes they promote within, sometimes they move on to other companies. However, it is no application. It's simply adding your name to the list. When the next job comes available, you're called. So yes, we do have a wait list. Absolutely. We have a waiting list, and sometimes there are 100 names on the waiting list. But the good news is that we have adopted, so many companies have adopted the model now that from our wait list, we're able to share some of those names with other companies that we know are engaged in this model.
Nice. Yeah. Another question here is, how does this approach relate to other HR initiatives like onboarding and promotion processes?
Well, how does it relate? It relates in that everyone right now, I think globally, there is a move for more inclusivity to diversify the workspace. This, as I said, opens the door to populations of people who were ousted from the workplace, who were not included because they had maybe have applied so many times and been told no. Open hiring diversifies it, so it is not the traditional model, but it is the way to add inclusion. It is the way to diversify your workforce. We do common things. I mean, once someone is in the workspace, of course, you have to provide training. So those things don't change. You still have your company may have policies and protocols, which of course every company has their corporate policies. So, they're able to maintain those. It is just the bottom line with open hiring. It is to provide an opportunity to someone with barriers to employment. In some countries, maybe it's more ageism. We have partners we have a large following, a partnership in the Netherlands, for instance. They are focused more on ageism because it seems as though people 50 and over particularly have a difficult time finding employment. So that is their area of focus, that they seek to increase inclusion of people that are of age 50 plus. So that's how it works with the HR. It enhances your inclusivity.
Great. Yeah. Here's one question which a lot of people liked. It's probably a question that you get a lot. Do you think this approach can work for all types of jobs, or is it just limited to certain roles?
Well, as I said, we engage open hiring. It started with the individuals that came in to work as bakers, right? So I will say this, every company has entry-level positions, whether it is all right, so it works here for our new bakers. It works here also, we use open hiring for our maintenance staff, our janitorial staff. We have also used open hiring for people that come in and do some of our recruitment, because we need recruiters to spread the good news about open hiring. So I find that, let's use the body shop, which is a big entity. They make toiletries and things. The body shop piloted the program when they first began. They did their pilot in their distribution center, where they have packers and pickers to people to pack the packages for distribution. That's fine. But now they have rolled it out as well in their retail stores. Every company can identify roles that can be filled this way. Now, as I said before, people have an idea that, oh, well, you never know what you're going to get. And of course, here, even at Greyston, for my job, I had to interview, I needed a certain level of credential. Absolutely. So every role is not going to work. But the idea is to identify those roles within your organization that will work. It is a start, and like the body shop, they started in one area, and now they're expanding. Like the bakery, we started with the bakers. Now we've expanded. Our entire cleaning staff comes in through open hiring. You can identify positions that don't require extensive levels of education. So wherever you can start, I've learned to not despise small beginnings, because once employers see how great these employees are, how loyal these employees are, they usually want to expand the model because they see that the employees are very loyal.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a question here about the turnover rate when open hiring is applied.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will tell you the good news with the bakery, our turnover rate in the manufacturing space is 72% lower than our competitors. So we have a absolutely magnificent retention rate. The body shop indicates that their retention rates were lower as well. We have a food packaging organization called Rhino Foods in the Northeast. They have reduced their turnover rates by 64%. So your retention is greater. As I said, our research from data collected indicates that, and we did try to find out why are the retention rates lower. It is the person getting the dignity of work, and people are appreciative that an employer saw fit to give them an opportunity despite their not having a great education, or despite perhaps they had a past that might have prohibited them from the opportunity. So it's the gratitude and the dignity, I believe, based on our research and data collection. That's why our retention rates are higher.
Great, yeah. There's a question here about cases that you might be able to share with us of, people getting hired and how that kind of changed their lives, I guess.
Oh my, we do have, I wish I could show you my screen. You can go on and see these, YouTube has a lot of videos about it, but we do have, I'll give you an example. We have a woman, her name is Shauna. She started here at the bakery maybe 5 years ago. She has, I think she has like 5 children, one of which is severely disabled. Her barrier to employment was what? It was that she could not find anyone to care for her child who was disabled during the day. She had applied for many positions, but she'd always have to, she was told no a lot because she didn't have transportation. She had so many different issues. So it was the issue of needing childcare. There was also the issue of needing someone to care for her disabled child. So what happened? She got a position, she was called, and she had said that it was her, she was about to give up, really feeling as though she had no opportunity, but didn't know where to go. And it was at that time that Greyston Bakery called her when she was at her lowest point and called her in for an opportunity. She's here at the bakery now. She's doing well. She's promoted, actually. She's a supervisor now. And that's one example. We have another example of a man. His name is Dion, and you can probably Google, you can YouTube. These things are available on YouTube where you can see these stories of the people that came into Greyston Bakery. Dion came to the bakery, I believe, like maybe 10 years ago. He had come out of prison. He was a young man from the age of 14. Because of his life circumstances, he was born into poverty. He began to sell drugs when he was about 14 years old, unfortunately, and he ended up going to prison, of course, and he was released maybe, I think he was in his 20s at that time, or early 30s. He found out about Greyston Bakery, put his name on the list, and fast forward, he was called. He did get a position at Greyston Bakery as a result. And I wish I could show his, I'm gonna try to get I'm gonna try to put a link into the chat. He was able to change his life, turn his entire life around. He received the position. He says, I was able to get into a union. I was able to create a bank account. He now has a child and he has a full, abundant life. He's promoted. He's now one of the managers at the bakery. I'm going to share that information with you because I would love for people to see that this is not a handout. Open hiring is not a free handout. It is an opportunity for someone to change their life. And more so, it is an opportunity for businesses to be a part of changing someone's life. The benefit to the employer is as great as it is to the employee.
Amazing. Yeah, I think my colleague just actually shared a link to a YouTube video in the chat.
Thank you. Wonderful. Did you find Dion's story, I hope?
I'm not sure which one. Yeah, I believe it is. Okay. Yeah, we have a couple more questions. Another one here would be about, why do you think companies are putting up those barriers for entry-level jobs, like references, background checks, and so on?
For entry-level jobs, I think that sometimes there are many different reasons. Sometimes it's fear that we will get people to come in that we don't want. Now, we would love, sometimes we have to have tough conversations, right? Sometimes you need to have hard conversations that everyone does not want to have. Sometimes the roadblocks are deliberate because you don't want to attract a certain population. Sometimes they're deliberate, as I said, because you don't want to get people who may have been incarcerated. You don't want to get people who don't have the Ivy League. I mean, for a company to say you need a bachelor's degree to come in and sit at a reception desk to be a receptionist or a greeter, that is deliberate. I believe it's deliberate, or it is just ignorance, if you will. Ignorance to the fact that you would gain more by opening the door. Diversity attracts more people, whether you're selling tissues or if you're selling brownies like we do, or if you have an IT company. Diversity enhances everything. You need more than one perspective. However, everyone is not looking to diversify. So that's the case. I think that some roadblocks are deliberate, some are not, some are just there out of ignorance, but I would suggest take down some of the roadblocks and start with a small sector. Start with 2 positions, start with 1 position, give an opportunity and pilot the model, and you would be really surprised with what you get.
Great, yeah. There's 2 questions which I think you already kind of answered, but I'll just bundle them together basically.
Sure.
So one is, do you think it's possible for big corporations to apply open hiring? And is this only US based? And I think you've already given the example of Body Shop, and you talked about the corporation in Netherlands, right? Maybe you can a little bit expand on that kind of international partnerships or so that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our partners in the Netherlands, you can look at it. It's our partners there. They're called the Start Foundation, and they have a bunch of companies that they're supporting. They have over 25 companies that they are supporting with the open hire model, that those companies have adopted open hiring. We are also just about to open what we call a hub in Mexico. We have companies in Mexico that are very interested. This is not only a US situation, not at all. The Body Shop is a very large organization. They employ over 5,000 people, and they've adopted the model. We're in talks with major corporations. We have other companies such as Rhino Food, Clean Craft, Bondwell, which is a French manufacturing company, that have adopted open hiring. So it's for the large and the small entities as well, both equally.
Okay, cool. So a few more questions here. One is here, what are some of the biggest challenges to implementing an open hiring model?
Well, believe it or not, it's a good challenge, but one of the biggest challenges is that when companies say, okay, we're going to adopt the model, they sign a memorandum of understanding and we assist them in implementing the model. What sometimes happens is, and we'll tell them, well, get ready, because when you put out to the world, to when we make it public that you're adopting open hiring, you're going to have to be ready for what happens. So what happens? I'll give you an example. Bondwell, which I said is a frozen food manufacturer, we offered the press release to say that they were going to partner. They're going to start implementing open hiring. What happened on the very day that we went to say that we're going to start, that they're going to start, and we held the press conference, and do you know that so many people turned up? Oh, I want to put my name on the list. So the companies have to be ready. That is the challenge. When you say that you're ready to do it, be prepared. You're going to get a bunch of people that are desperately looking to work. So if you're ready to open it up, please identify the number of positions, which positions that you are going to open it up. Not if you're going to say, well, we're going to open it up for our pickers and packers in our distribution center. Be ready, because when 20 or 40 show up, your HR staff is going to have to onboard them. And Greyston is there with you to support you in that endeavor.
Great. Yeah. I think that kind of already answers this question here. Like, what is the first piece of advice you would give to a business leader who wants to incorporate open hiring model?
And that is it. Be prepared to get the support. We're here to support. As I said, that is what we do. We are seeking to replicate the model, because we know that would increase inclusivity worldwide. But when you are ready to incorporate the model and to implement it, have your HR staff ready to receive the individuals, ready to onboard them. What do I mean by onboarding? Whatever your regular company policies are, of course, you're not going to do the interview, you're not going to do the background check, but you are, however, going to provide an orientation. What does your orientation look like? It is not a one size fits all. You're going to talk about your organizational culture. You're going to talk about what the position requires, what the tasks are, what the job responsibilities are, and all of those things. You have to be ready to provide that day one orientation. You also have to say, the way we do it here at Greyston, day one is an orientation. We give the group all of the information about the position, about the Greyston history. Day 2 through 6 months, we like to call the on-job training period, or the apprenticeship program, period. Of course, they are fully paid from day one. When they walk in the door for orientation, they are onboarded, they become an employee of Greyston. But that day 2 through 6 months, they're in a training where they're working with an experienced baker alongside of them, shadowing and getting that on-job training. After that 6 months period, they're a full-fledged level 1 baker. So I would encourage employers to have a structure in place that you are going to have an orientation day 1. Some companies require 2 days of orientation, depending on the tasks that will be assigned to the individuals. So that's what I would say. Have a plan in place on how you're going to onboard. What will be your steps if you're going to have a 3-month apprenticeship program period, or a 6-month, how long it would take for you to believe that your individuals will perfect the skill.
Great. Yeah. There's a follow-up question on the story that you told us about the woman with the 5 children.
Yes.
Did the bakery accommodate with work hours or childcare in that particular case?
Well, the good news about the bakery, we are 24/7 operation. We don't close. The bakery closes on Sundays for thorough clean, but the bakery we have more than one shift. So she was able to work the second shift, and her mom, was able to provide the childcare she needed because the mom worked opposite hours. So that is how she solved that problem. Working the second shift was really the key for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions of like how companies, are coming to you basically. So what kind of companies are coming to you? Are there specific sectors or industries that kind of pop out? And how is this kind of process with, I mean, you already kind of explained a little bit now, of course, but maybe you can go a little bit more into depth there.
Certainly, the types of companies are many. They're various. We have construction companies. And let me say this, it is not a one size fits all. And I'm glad you asked the question, and thank you for it, because I would like to elaborate with the construction company, for instance. We know that the way Greyston approaches open hiring, this is its purest form, where we ask no questions, we ask for nothing. We just say, we're going to give you an opportunity. However, we have several construction companies that have adopted the model, but we had to help them to modify. Why? Because they have to ask a question. What that question is, do you have a clean driver's license? The construction field requires that people have a good driver's license because they're going to operate machinery and they're going to have to drive trucks, certain trucks that they have to drive. So though they are engaged in some form of open hiring, that's why we like to call that more inclusive hiring, because it is not open in the Greyston open model, right? They use a variation because they have to ensure that individuals can operate those large trucks that they drive on those construction sites. So we have companies in construction, we have companies in the healthcare sector, we have companies in education. Of course, we have loads of manufacturers, whether apparel manufacturing, food manufacturing, distribution, we have trucking and moving companies. It varies. It's not a one trail. There are many different sectors, and it's across all sectors that people have adopted the model.
Great, yeah. There's one other question here about the liability issues inherent in this model.
Indeed. So we found that there is, for the bakery, we did not see that. In fact, our CEO was a former insurance underwriter. We have not identified that insurance costs are higher. We have not identified that at all. Even with our largest adopter, which is the body shop, it's a huge entity. They have not identified higher insurance costs either, nor have our partners at Rhino Foods, Clean Craft, Bondwell. No one has identified that their insurance costs have been higher at all because of this model. Because it's understood that, there's a level of insurance needed anyway, either way. And no company can insure just based on a background check, because research indicates that for the most part, when people have issues in the workplace, it's not someone that typically had a criminal history. So that is not an identifier. So insurance rates from the pilot programs that we've conducted have not increased at all.
Okay, cool, yeah. I would also have a question, like, because I've been reading quite a bit on open hiring lately.
Yes.
So for me, it kind of feels like this is becoming kind of a trend, something that is, more spread around. But I don't know, do you see this, like, do you feel that there are more companies approaching you lately? Do you see this as something that is kind of, having like a specific dynamic that's like an emerging movement, and how do you foresee kind of the future of that?
Indeed, we've had, I'm exhausted, I want to say that. I've had so many, we have companies coming from every direction, everywhere. As I said, we are getting ready to probably open what we call a hub in Mexico. We have so many followers there that are interested. We have had a huge increase here in the United States. Based on some of the social issues that have emerged and come to the forefront, based on also globally the pandemic. Employers are having a hard time increasing their workforce. Employers are having a hard time finding people that want to work in their companies. Open hiring opens the door to individuals who have really stopped looking. Nonetheless, they want to work, so now when they hear, oh, they're engaging in open hiring, this company, people are coming. People want to work. They just haven't been given the opportunity. So yes, we are inundated at this time with companies hoping to adopt this model. And Greyston is here to provide those supports. We've gotten so many new memorandums of understanding, so many new partnerships. We have even huge municipalities now partnering with us. That is governmental entities, municipal entities adopting the model, not for every job, as I said, but for certain jobs. We know that you don't need to do extensive background checks for certain positions either way, whether it is at a big company, a small company. There is always a position that you can bring a work staff in that doesn't require a college education, does not require even a particular specific occupational or vocational training, that you can just train people and get them working.
Amazing. Yeah. I think we have one more question here that is more about you, Dr. Jennings, and your kind of personal story, how you got involved with Greyston Bakery and the Center for Open Hiring.
Indeed. Prior to coming to Greyston Bakery, I was working at a SUNY, State University of New York College. I was responsible in charge of all of the non-credit programs. That includes all of the certification programs that don't require a degree. So occupational training, also ESL, that's English as a second language, making sure that people were work ready. I was in charge of workforce development training, right? I did that for about 3 years. Prior to that, I was executive director of strategic programs at that point at a college. Prior to that, I also worked as a human rights commissioner. So understanding that, there are inequities, there are social injustices, right? Having had the opportunity to review cases to see how people were really discriminated against. I mean, obviously, I understand discrimination. I'm a African American woman, so I understand. I'm well acquainted with discrimination. So these things, working in workforce development at the college, having worked as a human rights commissioner, prior to my human rights commissioner work, I also was the executive director of a nonprofit organization that provided assistance in programming for at-risk youth and families, at risk to the extent that they were socioeconomically, deprived, and just barriers, just being on an equal playing field, not being afforded a good education and things like that. So my working with marginalized populations, my work with human rights, then having the ability to run workforce development programs, I got to see that, workforce development was a way to get people out of poverty, to kind of equalize the playing field. Did everyone want a college degree? No. However, giving them a specific skill set was a way for them to earn a life-sustaining wage. to earn a family-sustaining wage and support themselves and their families, which brought me to Greyston. I saw the job listing and I had never heard of open hiring, to be honest. And I looked at the same video that they put in the chat there. I watched the video with this man called Dion, and I literally began to weep. I was so moved by this because I knew that he is the same person that I'd worked with at the nonprofit organization. He was the same type of person that would come to the nonprofit for help for food insecurity, trying to find a job. He was the same individual that would come to the college saying, well, I don't have the money to go to college. I can't go to college, but I need to get I need to get a skill set right away because I have to feed myself. So when I read about open hiring, I said, I have to get that job. I have to get that job because I know what it takes to make this work. And that is what brought me to Greyston, the mission, the idea that we can unlock human potential, the idea that the opportunity. I know that people want to work, but they have barriers that keep them out of the workforce. I know that there are employers that say, well, I can't dare give someone without a degree a job. I know that that makes no sense. I have a PhD, but I know that there are people as smart as I am that don't have any degree. I've been afforded the opportunity to go to school, but many people that are just as smart were not afforded that opportunity. So it is my, it's my good pleasure, and I feel very privileged to use the gifts that I've been given and my abilities to ensure that other people have an opportunity. I mean, here at this job, I have grown men come into this office and sit down and cry and say, thank you. I'm so grateful that I have this job. This is very rewarding work. It's very rewarding.
Amazing.
Really, yeah.
And we have one more question here that I find super interesting as well. So what advice would you give to people who want to open the discussion around open inclusive hiring to their higher ups, their employers in their own companies?
I would tell them, approach your higher ups, because as we know, I would be remiss and I would be quite foolish to say, oh, everyone's going to just say, oh, just yes, let's engage in open hiring. My suggestion would be go to your executive team and say, I've heard about open hiring. Can we pilot with just 2 positions? Start with 1. As I said, don't despise small beginnings. Start with 1. And Greyston is here. We provide what we call, if you should implement the model, we provide what we call path making. We have someone who would be available virtually to assist that individual you hire with navigating any issues that they may have, any life circumstances, if they need just to speak to someone about issues that they're dealing with, just to get some counseling. We provide that service at no cost in the beginning for like about a 3-month period, just to get your individuals onboarded. We are here to ensure that businesses implement the model successfully, and also here to ensure that the individuals you hire are successful. So that is my suggestion, to speak to the higher ups. Just say, I've heard about open hiring. Can we start somewhere? Can we start with 1 or 2 positions? Yeah.
Great, yeah. Okay. If there's no other question, I think we can wrap up the session. I don't see any new question popping up here.
Very good. I'm going to type my My contact information will be in the chat. Please reach out to Greyston if you want to get some support with implementing the open hire model.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Jennings, for